Okay, so everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, I just want to thank you so much for taking time to join us today. I feel it's really time worth your not seeing a friend or talking to a friend or whatever it is that you were going to do. I really firmly believe that this is probably one of the best things that you can do as a young person, in particular, going from, university into the workplace. So the idea behind this Media Mentors series is to provide, career advice and best practices, from folks in the real world who are making their way. And it could be, like Jasmine and Crystal, who are starting out and in starting out making great strides, and to folks like Zenita Henderson, who I'm going to introduce here in a second, who has been, excuse my French, kicking ass since she's 18 years old and making her way in the industry. So you'll learn more about Zenita as well. So I should tell you that I'm Dolly Wolf. I'm the founder of One Day Immersion in Media Technology and Entertainment. And it's my great honor to also provide this new series, Media Mentors, for you. We want to keep engaged with you. We want to keep connected with you. We understand how things are so crazy right now and challenging, and anything that we can do to help, with some different perspectives, with a different, way to look at things, with meeting new people, whether it be executives or even peers, we want to continue to offer that to you and do that for you. So, it's very important for us that we stay connected to you and that you stay connected with us as well, because this is a learning from each other, opportunity for sure. So today's session is a panel with 3 members of the industry. They're going to provide that insight and give you career advice for clearer perspective. And again, those real world anecdotes on how to move from university to workplace, or maybe it's workplace to workplace if you're, kind of early on in your careers. Our facilitator is going to introduce Jasmine and Crystal, but first I want to introduce Zenita Henderson, who is the Vice President of Marketing and Business Development for SCTE. And SCTE is the Society of Cable Telecommunications Engineers, and it works for the advancement of technology and standards and workforce education related to cable telecommunications engineering. Along with its global arm, the International Society of Broadband Experts. This is a huge organization. And like I said, it's global, and Zenita has her hands in domestic and global. So, so she is somebody who you guys should probably just reach out to, just as far as, picking her brain. What does she do during the day? And, how does she keep going? This is a person that has so much drive. The work ethic is like none other that I know of. And she is somebody who, I said this to our young executives earlier, that, how you say they know everybody? Well, everybody knows Zenita. So, and that's the truth. And it's not something, that's an ego thing. It's just the truth. And the reason why that is because she has made it, well, first of all, I think it's built into her DNA to actually get to know you, actually look you in the eye and say, tell me about you. And I think when you feel that authenticity, it's contagious, and you want to kind of be around that person. And I think that's just the person who Zenita is. That's how she built her career, along with the hard work. And She's an amazing, amazing, amazing woman. So I know she gets embarrassed because I could go on. I had to cut this down. And I can see I'm going on a little bit long, but honestly, folks, Zenita is someone incredibly passionate about you, passionate about education, passionate about getting you into the industry, and how can she help? How can we as an organization help? So I am honored that Zenita is with us today. I'm honored to have Crystal and Jasmine part of this conversation. And I'd just like everyone to please welcome Miss Zenita Henderson.
Hello, everyone. You don't have to welcome me. I'm just happy to be here and to be with you and to see. So I love, number one, I came into the industry, like you said, when I was 18, probably around 17 and a half. But I absolutely love this industry. It has been very good to me over the years. And I just I really want people to see the cable industry is you don't have to be an engineer to get into the cable industry. That's like my whole mantra is that, and there are so many cool careers. Every career in the cable industry is fun, and very interesting to be in because you're in the media and entertainment business. It's not just the set-top boxes in your home anymore. It's everything that you're touching now from a broadband perspective. So I just want to share that and make sure as many young people, and especially people of color and women, get into this industry, because it has just been, we definitely, I would even say over Silicon Valley, we've definitely done a lot in the cable industry around diversity and inclusion and equity. And so, I want you guys to take full advantage of this opportunity, especially now with everything that's been going on. And I'm super excited to be here more so. I'm the old head here, and I've been around for a while. Jasmine and Crystal are really, are doing some amazing things. And I'm so excited that I get to, debut them on the platform, and you guys get to hear about them because, yes, I've had a great career, love it, but I really want you guys to just glean some information from the dialogue that we're going to have amongst the three of us to see what's happened in the 30 years that I've been in the industry, and then from, the younger generation that are really making some huge strides in the industry, both from a tech perspective and then also from the programming side with Crystal. So I am very honored. I'm going to go alphabetically. I want them to speak for themselves. They have a voice, and that's what I want them to use this afternoon. And Crystal, please, why don't you start us off and give us a little short bio about yourself?
Yeah, okay. My name is Crystal Williams, and I am the development assistant at 9 Story Media Group. We're a production company that does children's television, so we do Blue's Clues, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, Charlie's Colorform City, and a whole bunch of other shows. And I'm in the development side. So basically finding new content to develop and pitch to companies like Netflix and Apple. And I'm from upstate New York and a graduate of Syracuse University and SUNY Oneonta.
Awesome. Thank you, Crystal. And Jasmine.
Hey, everyone. So my name is Jasmine Serano, and I am a business program manager within the Chief of Staff office at Microsoft. I'm originally from New Jersey, and then I moved to Dallas for work. And currently, my position is basically leadership enablement. So I enable our leaders to be successful with the meetings that we're having, making sure our strategies are in line with what we're communicating to the rest of the company, budget management. So there's a whole bunch of things kind of under my umbrella, but that's kind of the gist of my day-to-day job. And then I guess personally, I went to Villanova University. So I graduated 2016 and 2017. I did a 5-year program in computer science. So I came up with my master's. So if any of you have a 5-year program at your colleges, highly recommend that you do it, because the thought of going back to school now after leaving is just not really attractive for me. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Well, Jasmine, that's interesting because I was untraditional in that route. I went right from high school to working because I'm very high maintenance, and I was born that way. I'm just saying that way. But I went to school as I was working. So I went the non-traditional route and worked through, and then ultimately ended up at Rosemont, which I loved here in Pennsylvania. But, obviously had the hustle from the very early stages. And I know when we were having our pre-call, I have to tell you that totally impressed with both of the positions that both of you as young adults hold right now. But I also was more impressed with, as I've been growing up in the industry, it was all about, in my generation, hard work, keep your head down, do your work. Somebody will notice you and take you with them, and you'll be successful. And in a lot of instances, that was true. And in a lot of instances, it's not. Sometimes you can keep your head down a little bit too low. And yes, you're getting things done, but you're also getting passed over for promotions. You're not speaking up for yourself. And, luckily with me, I was doing a lot of really great things in the industry. So people kind of, whenever they got promoted, they took me with them, right? So it was great that I was working hard and doing all of that. But it was because I was keeping my head down and working very hard, right? So I learned my lesson in probably about 20 some years in, and say, start speaking up for yourself. And then that's when things, as Dolly will tell you, just kind of exploded when I did kind of lift my head and go, oh yeah, I did that. Yay! And took credit for it. And so with you, when we had our pre-call, what I was so impressed with was the fact that you guys did not just sit back and send a resume, go to a conference, and just kind of lay back on your laurels and wait. Jasmine, I need for you to tell that story about how you went into Microsoft and did your thing, and then wait till you hear Crystal's too. Hers is amazing. But Jasmine, tell us how you got to the Chief of Staff office of Microsoft.
Yeah, so let me just kind of give the background story of how I got my foot into the door. So I went to the NSBE conference, which is the National Society of Black Engineers. They have a national convention conference. So I had submitted my resume in the resume portal, not thinking anything of it because I already had a job offer, thanks to One Day Immersion, but we'll get to there. And I put my resume in the resume portal and got an email back from Microsoft. And it was like, hey, we saw your resume. We'd love to interview. So I was like, oh, well, it's Microsoft. I might as well go for it. So interviewed at the conference and ended up getting a position the same day I interviewed. And I was like, I literally called my mom after I got the call, and I was like, Mom, Microsoft just gave me an offer. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah. So we're both like, ah. So that changed everything, right? That changed my trajectory in my career. So I started off in what they called the mock program, which is basically like your college hire, your entry level kind of position into corporate America. So I started as a support engineer, and that was working with customers, helping them resolve their technical issues. And I did that for about a year and a half. Loved the position, learned a lot, but I knew there was more that I wanted to get out of my career. So I reached out to a bunch of people within Microsoft, and I became a digital program manager. So essentially with that, I managed 7 products and helped customers self-resolve their technical issues using self-help assets. So automation, content, how we can better equip our support engineers to resolve cases quicker. So I did that position for about a year. And then I learned about a rotation in the Chief of Staff office. And I was like, well, I might as well go for it. It doesn't hurt, right? So I applied for that and I got the position. So and I've been at Microsoft for 3 years. And for the past 3 years, I've held 3 different positions. So I say all that to say, I think it's up to you what you make of your career, right? I know there's some people who are still in the same position that I started in at the company, which is fine. They're growing within that position. For me, Microsoft is such a large company that I wanted to be able to say, yeah, I've tapped into this area. It was cool. I don't know if I like this or I don't like that. So it's helping me narrow down what my passion is so that I know once I find a team or a position that I like, then elevating within that team. So that's been my career. It's definitely been a journey, learning a lot, and it's been great.
That's awesome. Now you have to understand you're in the Chief of Staff office at Microsoft. So the next office is unseating the CEO. That's the next position.
Right, exactly. Working with Satya is the goal.
There you go. So Crystal, please tell us your story, because yours is amazing as well, because this one just plummeted. She just had a bulldozer and just went through.
Yeah, my path is kind of like zigzaggy. So my background is really in music and sound. And I hated being in the audio studio. So I took a class in sound design and I really loved it. And I said, well, maybe I should be in like a post-production, studio. And so I went upstate to do an internship in post-production. I loved it. After I graduated, they were most people go to New York, Nashville, or Los Angeles. And my budget didn't allow for any of those. So I was blessed enough to be able to stay home in Syracuse. And I just kind of asked everybody, like, can they hire me for free? Would anybody hire me for free? And everyone said no. And I was like, okay, I have a problem here. And so I started to intern for radio stations and news stations. And eventually I got hired on as a producer for Time Warner Cable News. And I was there for a little while. But what I've noticed was that every single person there wanted to do something else. Like they're like, oh, I want to be a writer, but I settled for a producer. Or I wanted to be a vocalist, but I settled for an anchor. And I was like, aren't these positions that people like want to be? Like, why are people settling? And so I was like, okay, maybe this isn't it. Like maybe I just need to do like a little bit more digging into like what I want to do. So I went back to grad school. After I graduated there, everybody was freaking out. They usually go to New York or LA, and I had no prospects. And so my teacher came to me and he said, why don't you go to Norway? And I was like, that makes absolutely ridiculous no sense. Why would I go to Norway? But I had no other prospects, so I just decided to go to Norway for this post-fellowship, which was in sound recording, and engineering and audio mastering and documentary. So I did that for a year, and I kind of just always stayed in touch with people because I knew that that was going to end. And I knew that how difficult it was just by going through like the internship phase, how difficult it was to like find a job in New York. So I stayed in touch with a lot of people in New York. And then when I came back, I literally spent 3 months in Syracuse, went down to meet this guy who actually mentored me through One Day Immersion. I applied for like something random that was like, oh, you get a mentor. And I got a mentor. I kept in touch with that mentor. And then when I went down in the summer, he basically offered me an internship. So I did that. I wanted to stay in the city, but I needed income. And so I was like, I'm just going to find a job. So I was serving tables, bussing tables, and I kind of just put my resume just at a bunch of places. And someone called me and they asked me if I wanted to be a temp at like a media company, which is called In Demand. And I worked there for like 3 months, and I saw that there was an assistant position open up. And I was like, okay, I need to get this job because everybody in my industry starts off as an assistant. So I basically just bugged them until they like hired me. I was just sent thank you cards. The position was for an assistant to like a CFO and the SVP of programming. So I just went to the CFO's like office and I just made them hire me somehow. And I was there for 2.5 years. And then I decided that I needed to kind of get closer to what I wanted to do. And so I was applying for a pretty long period of time. And I just came across this position at 9 Store, and I was like, you know, it probably be like a tough shot, but I'll apply. And I went in there and I could sense that they liked me. So I just took that opportunity to basically just blow them away and seal the deal. And I sent them a whole bunch of thank you cards and thank you emails. And I just, again, made them hire me. So.
See, you can make people hire you. You really can.
Yeah. So I say this to say that I think that in regards to, I think it's important to tell people what you want. And I think it's important to speak up for yourself. And when I was in Norway, I really needed a job. And the way that their culture kind of goes is they don't hire people like just anybody. It takes a long time to even just hire like in retail. And I kept applying, and my best friend, one of my best friends, he's still in Norway. He would be like, why don't you call them again? I was like, dude, I called them every single day. I'm not going to call them again. And he said this one thing to me that still to this day is in my head. Every single time I'm afraid to do something, he says, if you don't reach out, just remember that someone else will. And so it kind of shows me that if there are opportunities to be had, sometimes it just is that person asked. Maybe they weren't even qualified, but they showed that assertiveness. And so you can't be afraid to kind of lead yourself where you want to go. People want to know that you're invested in yourself. And so if you're not invested in yourself, why would they invest in you? So
Absolutely. That you are so right with that. And I like to say, and 52-year-old speak is that a closed mouth does not get fed. You must speak up for yourself in the corporate world today. You absolutely have to have a voice and speak up for yourselves. And there's so many exciting things that are going on in the industry right now. So many people that are looking for jobs that you definitely have to be able to differentiate yourself. And I think that, especially with you being young right now, and you're talented and you're gifted, that you really just need to put that effort out there. It's not just going to come to you. And nowadays, it's even more important for you to do that in the virtual world. Everyone's being interviewed over on the computer right now, over Zoom calls. So you have to make your presence very regal, even online now, because you're on video chats now for interviews for jobs. Jobs that were not available in Silicon Valley now are open up now because they see that everyone's working from home. Unfortunately, I hate the way that we got here, but we're here, right? And a lot of the jobs that you would have thought, oh, I could never get that job, is on the West Coast. Doesn't matter anymore, right? They don't care where you're working at now, because it has been proven that you can work very efficiently from home. And I'm probably one of those people that can tell you that. I'm on the phone from 7 to 7 every day of the week for what I'm doing. And my day-to-day is just crazy, because for our society right now, the cable industry did not stop. As you know, everyone's on broadband, everyone's getting their services, they're doing video, they're on the phone. Cable serves a lot more than just your home anymore. Now it's hospitals and businesses, and all types of services are going out across that broadband pipe. And it has been working phenomenally well because the cable industry did not stop. And my association actually does a lot of the training. And it's like Dolly said, the standards for the industry. So we just kept moving. We had a huge event that I'm responsible for with my marketing team called the Cable Tech Expo that was supposed to happen in October in Denver. And back at the end of May, we were told that the Denver Convention Center would be used as a backup hospital facility, and that we were unable to use the center in October for our event. So we had to pivot to an online event. And our little mighty team of 3 took a 8 to 10,000 person show and pivoted it to online. So we're in the process of planning that now. So my day-to-day is literally, trying to get a bunch of exhibitors that was 380 to 400 exhibitors over to a virtual platform, as well as 122 speakers, 40 workshop tracks onto a virtual platform. So that has just been wonderful in itself. And the diversity of my position is just wonderful for that, because I go from, putting out a standards brochure on your favorite, SCTE 35 standard, which do not hate me for, because that is the ad insertion for the commercials and your local ads. But we actually have an Emmy for that. But, I go from that to planning a huge show with, celebrities and all kinds of cool stuff. So my day is pretty jam-packed with on the phone talking to exhibitors, trying to convince them to come over to this virtual format, even though they weren't ready for it, and selling the show, working with all the global media partners that are, promoting our show, as well as all the executives in our industry that are speaking at our show. So that is a very full day for me. If I wasn't here, I'd be on the phone with somebody right now trying to do that. But so my day is pretty full. So I'm really curious, especially Crystal, why don't you lead off with us to let us know, what is a day in the life of Crystal like for work?
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. So to be honest with you, I preface with saying that we do have work hours. It's not 24 hours a day, but I'm so it's interesting because when you're obsessed with a job, you're just obsessed with what you're doing, you kind of just want to work more, and it doesn't mean anything. So I kind of start at 9. As a development assistant, there's many different areas that I kind of have, that's kind of under my plate. So I support three or 4 people, which is 2 of us, the vice president of live action production and development, and the vice president of live action of animation production and development. And so those are 2 people that I support, their day-to-day, their calendars, their travel, which we're not traveling anymore, but all of those other things. But a large portion of what I do is looking at pitches, looking at submissions, pitching internal projects in terms of maybe there's a book that we found, maybe that we would like, and we need to pitch it internally to see if everyone else can get aboard. A lot of it is kind of moving projects forward. So everyone on my team has a development project that they own, in terms of maybe this project has been assigned to me, and my job would be to make sure it has all the materials to pitch. So when we take an idea, say a writer or a creator comes to us with an idea, they pitch it to us, we say either yes or no. If we like it, we kind of start the process of getting the option to be able to have their project with us and to pitch it to other people and then to take it on. And the process of that is maybe coming up with a Bible pitch, coming up with an animation test, and getting all of those materials packaged in a way where then we can go out to Apple or Netflix or any other broadcaster and say, hey, we have this new project, this new animation or live action project we would like to pitch to you. And we pitch it to them. We hopefully sell it to them. And once they sell it to them, we take it back and we say, okay, now we have the clear to like push that project into production. So there's a lot of different, I think, phases. I would say that we're busy all day, every day, doing all kinds of things. But I think the most important thing that we do is just we provide this next generation of children with content, and we try to do a good job at it.
Well, let me ask you a question. How many people here that's on the line with us that I see are writers or trying to get a TV show off the ground or want to be in that realm? Okay. So what would be, I know you do children's television, but I'm assuming that a good pitch is a good pitch regardless of the audience or the genre.
Yeah.
Tell us what would catch your attention to get past all the other scripts that you probably get.
There's a lot of things. I think what's mostly important is that whoever you're pitching to, you understand the people that you're pitching to. It's kind of like a job interview, right? It's like when you go into a job interview, you research the company. So it's like researching who you're pitching to, because if we're a children's company, then you probably shouldn't try to sell us a story about gang members because we wouldn't really be interested into that storyline, right? Right? So I think paying attention to who that you're pitching to, and a phrase that we kind of say internally is why the show, why now, and why you. And it's kind of like what leads every pitch is that we want to know that as a creator that you're a strong creator and that you're a strong person and that your idea is laid out in a very concise way. And we want to know we want to know from you in a pitch, why should we take this show on? Why the show? Why now? Why does the world need it? Why do children need it? What's going to make children better, like about this pitch? And I feel like every pitch that we've been really into, it really has a strong sense of why this show, why now, and why you specifically. And the reason why I think it's so important is because animation takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. So our CCO usually says, are you ready to marry this for 10 years? Because it takes about that. It could take up to 10 years to make an animation. It's a lot of work. And if you're pitching us, like I said before, like if you don't believe in the project, why would we? Right? Because we have to take it. And I feel like it's kind of going back to that. And I think besides from that, I think it could be, make sure whatever your material that you're sending us, make sure there's no spelling areas, make sure it's concise, make sure it's clear. I would pitch it to other people before you pitch it to anybody else, and pitch it to people that aren't your family, but that are in the industry and really can critique it. But overall, we just look for just a strong property that has a strong, why do kids need this show now?
Understood. Okay, thank you. So Jasmine, why don't you walk us through a day in the life of you over at Microsoft?
So it varies. Some days can be super, super long because we're prepping for an offsite with our leadership team. And we want to make sure that during that offsite, they're having the strategic conversations that they need to have to enable their initiatives, their projects to be successful. So some days it can be super long because we're planning for that and there's 20 agenda topics, but we only have so many hours in a day. So organizing that can be super busy. Some days it's speaking with our leaders to understand what's important to them, right? What are the things that they're working on? What are the blockers that they're running into so that we can escalate some of those issues and clear out those blockers so that the projects and initiatives can continue and roll out and be successful. Some days it's working on, so currently I'm a vice president appointed leader for our Give campaign. In our Give campaign, we do that through the month of October, and it's basically donating to nonprofits, right? So I'm working with our leaders on that to understand, okay, what nonprofit is important to you, right? What nonprofit do we want to show as a group we're benefiting? So it's working on that and understanding, the deadlines and the strategies, what events that we're going to have now that it's virtual. We can't, write cards or make cards for St. Jude's Hospital. We have to do them virtually. So it's also looking at those things and seeing what benefits our leaders. So a lot of the day, honestly, is just understanding what's the scope of work for the month. That's how I look at it. And then I narrow down the month to the week and then the week to the day. So I kind of have a work back schedule that I work on, but a lot of times it's busy. It's every day is different. And I'm definitely learning a lot. I think for me specifically, because I have a seat at the table with these leaders, I listen to how do they present, right? What are the strategies that they're working on? Because this is a rotation, as I mentioned, so I'm only here for a year. So I'm trying to make the most out of the time that I have. So if I can meet one-on-one with them just so that they know my name, or if they have side projects that they need help with, that's the person that I am, because I want them to know the work that I can produce, right? So when I'm looking for the next role, it's, oh yeah, I worked with Jasmine. She's awesome. She's, this excellent person here at Microsoft. So I try to do small projects as well. So kind of my day-to-day varies.
You have a very diverse day. I can see that.
Very.
So tell us about some of the challenges that you may have.
Some of the challenges I face, specifically, sometimes the challenges of our leaders are not very clear, right? Or they're down to the nitty gritty of their specific business area. Right. And I work with about 5 different leaders, and they have, under those leaders, there's like 10 or 20 different teams, and then those teams have teams. So when they get to the nitty gritty, it's hard to understand, okay, can you tell me in layman's terms, what is the issue, or what project are you working on? Sometimes it gets very detailed, technical. Right? Yeah. So sometimes it has to be grabbing the holistic view of what is the project that you're working on, and what's the intended outcome of that project. So sometimes I have to reach out to like 10 different people to puzzle the pieces together. So sometimes that's challenging. If there's, organizational changes within the company, then sometimes it's understanding, okay, what's this new role, or what does this person now do that there's been a change within the company. So sometimes it's those types of things, like structural things, that make it more complex. And then sometimes just budget. I come from a technical background, not finance. I have cousins who work in finance, and that's their area, and I know nothing about that. So sometimes working with budget too can be difficult, but again, I like challenges because I'm learning something new, right? So for the next position, it's like, yeah, I worked with budget. I've done it before. I'm more comfortable with it now, so that helps me build up my resume, build up my skill set. So although the challenges can be frustrating, it's definitely worth kind of pushing through and excelling in those.
Exactly. I think finance is the one thing that people do not think of in a creative position and or a technical position, and that is paramount. Finance. Definitely take that class seriously in college, because you will have to if you're running a P&L or doing a budget for your department, regardless of what your role is, you have to be able to read that budget sheet. You have to be able to fill it in and complete it. You have to be able to negotiate and work with vendors and outside people and put in salaries, and you got to put that in there too. So, just running the finance and running a P&L for any role that you have, you're definitely going to have to do it. So that is something that I think is probably the least thing that people think about in school when a communications major, right? Finance was very important. So that's great. Thank you, Jasmine. And how about you, Crystal? You obviously have to have some challenges that you face in your day-to-day.
It's funny, they're always happy challenges. It's like, they're never like, oh my gosh, this job sucks, I can't wait to get out. It's always like, you know, they're like happy challenges of like, you still love the team, you still love what you're doing, and like, you just got to get through it. I think one of the big challenges that we have is that we were like a very small team that expanded like by 100% with like 3 times. Like we went from like 30 people to like 60 people over like 2 months.
Wow.
And I think but within that, we were our kind of a solo company. So we used to be out of the blue enterprise, and our chief creative officer, her name is Angela Santamero, and she is the co-creator of Blue's Clues and Dale Tiger and so many great things. And we were kind of we're 9 Story. We're in this bigger company, and so we're kind of like a corporation, but our studio is basically run kind of like a startup. And so we're working within 2 kind of systems. And so what usually happen is someone will ask you to do something, and you will most likely be doing that, the first person to ever do that, and figure out how do we do that. And now it's a kind of a question, okay, like as 9 Story, how do we do this? And I think just that entrepreneurship kind of thinking is really interesting. It's challenging at times because there's not already a roadmap put in front of you, but it's great at times because coming from corporate, it's a kind of a leadership opportunity. Like it's a great leadership opportunity to say, okay, no one's ever done this before, but now I get to do it. How would I, like, just the freedom and being able to like say like, let's, you know, like we don't have a script for this. Like, let's try to like go with this. There's going to be some mistakes. There might be some mistakes, but that's okay because we'll learn from it and we'll get better. And I think I actually really enjoy it. Just like the grit of just like being in like that startup kind of culture is that it's a very good opportunity to become a leader. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's common. I love the cable industry because we are very entrepreneurial in that spirit. I started way back when you guys probably weren't even born. But when I first went into my company at 19, when I went to Gerald, and again, it was a huge international company that had been around since 1947. And when I came on the scene, we had domestic. All sales were domestic. Everything was fine. I was in customer service. And, we moved to international. We would get products in, but no one knew how to ship it back out. And I literally had a sales guy that went on a business trip down to Mexico, got a big deal for like hundreds of thousands of dollars for set tops and, to put wireless set top boxes in Mexico, which, he was showing these pictures to me of people living like in these little shanty houses, like on the streets of Mexico, like down by, and they had a set top box and an antenna. That's what they needed. Right. And I had to figure out, okay, I got this $100 million order. How am I going to ship it to Multivision, right? And I figured it out. And I went home and talked to my mom. She told me how to do it. I ended up getting in touch with my state representative. And literally, that's how we started shipping international with General Instruments. I went home and talked to my mom. She told me, well, call our state representative. And my state representative got me in touch with somebody at the State Department. And then I went to work and learned how to do a pro forma invoice. I work with our marketing department. I work with our finance department. We figured out how to do a pro forma invoice. I work with logistics and figured out how to do an invoice to get it out of the country. Literally every step of the way, learned how to do that and put that knowledge back to my company. And then they ended up, being huge and global as General Instrument and then ultimately Motorola. So it's just great that a lot of times in the cable industry, even to this day, I worked at General Instrument, went to Motorola, then we end up working now for a nonprofit in the cable industry. And we're still doing that, right? We're still figuring things out and making up, new processes as we go along and being successful with that. So I do think that our industry, out of any other industry, definitely you get to create not just your job, but also you get to create process and new things that are going to be better for the industry. So that's very cool for us. Now, thank you for sharing your stories on that, Jasmine and Crystal. And I know we're getting down to time, so I definitely want to spend this last little bit of time with you just saying, since we've been in the pandemic, everybody, even I have a mentee with a cable operator down where Dolly is, down in Arizona. And, she and I spent a lot of time on the phone speaking about how do you still keep your presence and keep yourself important to your staff. If you're in one state and your people are in a different state or different locations and you're virtual. And, you know, how do you still keep that executive presence? How do you still keep your projects going? How do you keep people motivated? And, you know, this is something that all of you are going to run into. I know I have many mentors via the industry associations that have mentorship programs. And, you know, many of them did not get placed this summer because they, you know, people were working from home. So I need Jasmine and Crystal, you know, kind of start with Jasmine, just to give everyone just some tips on how do you keep your presence in a virtual world, right? Obviously, right now, you're still going to go for either jobs or internships, but give us some advice on how to just keep that presence going.
Yeah, so for me personally, I reach out to my team members. Sometimes it's just a regular check-in. It could be a coffee chat, because I try to keep the same like physical presence as if I was there, right? So if we have a 15-minute or even a 10-minute coffee chat on how was your weekend, what did you do, keep it light. That definitely helps. And then we'll get into the work, right? So what projects are you working on? Where can I help? And I think a lot of my coworkers know me as a person where I'm willing to help you in any way to be successful, right? Or if you have a side project that you need help on or that I find interesting, I reach out and say, hey, I heard, you know, you have this side project that you're working on. Can I help you out with this? Is there anything I can assist with? So I think being able to just reach out and check on everyone individually, right? Mentally, how are you doing? We've all been in this pandemic. We've all been home. It's been challenging. We all want to go to the office. So I like to check on the mental and making sure that you're okay. But then I get to the work, right? And me being the person of wanting to collaborate with you, I think that sticks in the back of the mind of the people that you work with. So when it comes to the conversation of, yeah, I worked with Jasmine on this and it was great, that partnership was great, it not only helps build your network, but it also shows like, you know, you're working on something innovative within, well, for me, within Microsoft, right? So I think having those frequent touch points with people definitely goes a long way. If you don't really talk to them that often, then you might get left in the dust, which no one wants to. So I think continuing that constant communication, check-in, it goes a long way.
Thank you, Jasmine. And Crystal?
I would say the same thing. Me and my team, we talk every single morning at 9:30 in the morning. And it's not, we're pretty much, I feel like we're constantly on the phone together and connected together. I have a really great team and we just are really like teammates. Like it's almost as if we're in the office together, and I think we actually get more FaceTime over over these things than we did in the office. So I think we're just really good at keeping touch. We're really on top of our job, so like I feel like if not anything, we're probably getting more work done because we're communicating more, we're able to tackle projects together more. And I think just to get noticed, I would just say to just be proactive about things. I don't think it's something, I think it goes without saying in our team, but we're just always on it, on to the next project. Like we don't wait for people to kind of ask us to do things. And I think that's also like just our company culture, is that if something needs to get done, we just make sure that it gets done. And I think it's also just kind of understanding, we do that because some days are good days, some days are bad days, and our job is to make sure that our department is running smoothly. So just to stay on top of things. And I think if you're in an internship, one of the things that I think you can do is just to continuously reach out, continuously say like, hey, like, do you need any help with this? I finished this project. Because what I've noticed is that if you're in a job, you're way more focused at home, you're actually probably doing more work, and it's really hard because there's not that face-to-face to say to your intern like, oh, hey, like, how's it going, or how was this project? So I think that like if you're an intern, to just continuously like keep bugging, like keep bugging people, like keep saying like, is there anything I can do, is there anything I can help out? Because I feel like if you do that, people would be like, oh, like I kind of forgot we had an intern. But yeah, like, why don't you join this meeting, or why don't you do this? Or I just think, you know, just continuously reaching out is probably like the best thing you could do.
And sorry, Crystal touched on something that I think is super important. And I think it goes for if you're an intern or if you're working at a company, right? Which is reaching out and doing, I call them coffee chats. There's probably different terms for them, but reaching out to individuals, you may not know that, like there's people I've emailed and I personally do not know them. I've never worked with them, but it's, hey, I'm Jasmine, I'm an intern, or hey, I'm Jasmine, I'm new to the company. I just want to learn more about Microsoft. I want to learn about your role, your experience. And that goes a long way. Like people want to get to know interns. They want to know people within the company. So I think taking the initiative to even just reach out, in some cases they may not answer, but there's so many people at these different companies that someone will say yes, right? So, or even like your manager, if you're an intern, your direct manager can introduce you to other people that they know or partner with, and that can build up your network and you can learn about the things that they're doing. So I think taking that initiative, it goes a very long way, because there's people I interned with that I still talk to this day, and they're still in my network. So you never know where you'll bump into those people. So I think taking that initiative is key.
Yeah, and I think it makes it easier for like the person that you're connecting with, because if they know that you're interested, it makes it easier for them to kind of help you out. It's really hard to be like, oh, I want to be a good person, let me try to reach out to this person. Like there's just not enough time in the day. So if you make yourself visible, they'll be like, hey, like we actually have a entry-level position open. I don't know if you're interested, but maybe they'll just be thinking about you. So just do what you can to make sure that you're like in the front of their head. And I think that if you're constantly asking, like, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Okay, done with that project. What's the next project? What's the next thing? They'll be more able to incorporate you into their day, which will get you more exposure.
Absolutely.
And they could be a sponsor too for additional.
Oh, yes. Sponsorship is very important. Sponsorship is very important. And also take advantage of LinkedIn right now too. Right now you have a lot of executives that are home, right? And not that they're not doing anything, right? But you could be reaching out via LinkedIn, let them know what your interests are. Could we do a quick Zoom call? Even if you set it up for like 15 minutes, could I get 15 minutes of your time? You're in a field that I'm interested in. Would you mind speaking with me? You will be very surprised. If invest in that professional level LinkedIn account so you can get all those in-mails, and do some outreach to people who are in fields that you're interested in. Do some really good targeted posts and put tags in there that'll attract the people for the positions that you're looking for. I have noticed that, I've started really getting good with the hashtags, and people who aren't even connected to me now because I use a certain hashtag when I put up a post, they will reach out to me now. So definitely, I strongly encourage you to invest that $60 a month, because you have a lot of executives right now that are home, right? And they would definitely appreciate probably speaking with you, finding out what you're interested in, and you might even make some contacts there. So with that, I'm going to say, Dolly, we have our last 12 minutes, our 13 minutes. We're going to do a little Q&A?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I was looking at some of the chats boxes that's here, and I see something here. There was from Cameron. She has a question for Crystal. Do you have any information on what the everyday life in the writer's room looks like at your job?
The everyday? No. But no, I mean, I imagine they spend a lot of time writing new premises and new storylines, and I imagine they spend a lot of time speaking with our research. We have a 9-story is heavily into research, so every script, most scripts that we write always get researched in schools. So we'll take that script or put it into a picture Bible and kind of go out and read it to schools, and then that feedback will kind of help the writer be able to write better for children. So I imagine it's like a combination of all kinds of meetings and writing. So I do not know what the day-to-day is like at all, but maybe I could try to help you find that information out.
That'll be cool.
Fair enough. I also see one here from Eunice who's asking about self-care. How's everyone dealing with, self-care during this time?
So for me, I just got off of a family vacation, which was much needed. So I think if you're, professionally working, take vacation days, take those times to just get away from email and, recharge the battery. So for me, I do that. I'm big on working out, so I like to work out in the morning. So that helps me kind of prepare myself for the workday before I get started. And then I use the Calm app, and then I have Apple Watch. So I do like breathing exercises throughout the day just to kind of keep my mental and keep my sanity since I'm home all the time. So those are just some things that I personally do.
Yeah, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be better. It's a little difficult for me because I feel like when I was in New York after work, I'd always like have a class or have something I would go to. And now, like, since that doesn't exist, I think that there's this like feeling to like linger on. It's like, oh, like dinner / check my email after. And I'm trying to not do that. So I've been trying to do more things like outside, like play tennis or go running or go swimming or just do anything to get outside of the house, but in a way that's safe. And I feel like, I try to step away and just to take breaks, but I do think that it's difficult. I'm working on it.
Yes, and I had the same thing.
I had the same issue, but one thing one of my mentors told me too that helped. So like I don't have my work email on my phone on purpose. And then I work in a different room than like the common area or like my bedroom. So when I leave that space for the day, that's it. Like I'm not checking email. I'm not checking. We use Teams, so like IMs and all that stuff. So once I close that door, it's done for the day. So that might be helpful.
Exactly. And same with me. I have an office, obviously, and I have a home office. And as soon as I close those doors and walk out, but I still have my email on my phone, though. So it's still
Yeah, one of the things that I do is I started doing is like, because like you're used to like a commute, like you're used to like going somewhere and then once you're home, like you're home. And so I started kind of like after work to like go outside, go for a walk and kind of like start that process of like kind of like decompressing for the day and like transitioning over. But yeah, all my coworkers will tell you that I'm awful at it. And I often get sent home to stop working by my coworkers, but it's a work in process.
And I would love to say I was doing the whole beach body workout thing, that I was on the treadmill, I was doing the mirror. No. But I haven't gained any weight. That's a good thing. But no, I think you do have to do self-care. I mean, I would say I was getting better at it was worse for me being at work and not leaving work on time. That was more of an issue. At least here, I got myself into a 5, 6 o'clock. I'm out of my home office and I'm out of this environment. But had I been in the office, I would have still been at work 6 or 7 o'clock. So I think I've gotten better. I'm gonna take that as a win. Any other questions out there?
Yeah, I'm going to read a couple more. This is from Professor Holson-Bake from NOVA. Would you speak to the mental and emotional elements of presence?
Well, I think you do have to keep yourself in a certain frame of mind, obviously being home. I think for me, with everything that's been going on, especially being an African-American woman, everything that's been going on in the world right this summer, the pandemic, the disenfranchisement of just everything, the killings, just the way the world is going. I see my neighbors, that some of them are furloughed, and I have a gentleman down the street that's losing his home. And as an African-American woman, I'm still working, right? I still have a job. I'm paying my bills. I'm not having the same pandemic experience as other people are having. And I feel guilty about that. I actually feel guilty about that because so much is going on in the world that's not impacting me because I'm in this house. I'm worried about a trade show. And the rest of the world's worried about their lives or their sons getting killed in the street. So you do have to center yourself and think, look, I am doing for society. I'm definitely doing for society what needs to be done. And that I am putting my piece of the world out there as far as volunteering my time for opportunities like this, volunteering my time. My whole career, other than working and doing my core job, has been around getting minorities and diversifying the cable industry. So I feel like I'm doing my part. So that tends to center me. But yes, when I turn this thing off and I go look at the news, I go, God, only by the grace of God go I, because I'm seriously not having the same pandemic experience as other people. And I feel bad about it, but then I say, I am doing my part to make sure this stops, or that we can somehow make it stop in the future. So that's how I kind of keep my level head, is that I know I'm doing all I can. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Kristen.
I think that for me, I've been learning to take every day at a time. We can't predict the future clearly, and we can't live in the past. So I think it's just important to just take one day at a time. I will often distance myself from media, news, and everything for like long periods at a time. Like at first, I feel like I was connected every day, and it was just affecting like my mental state. And I think that this whole experience has shifted awareness to mentally, how are we prepared? Like, how are we feeling? And I feel like for me, if I need to like take a break and step away, like I take a break and I step away and I turn everything off and I go watch Scooby-Doo or something else that like makes me feel, good inside. And then I feel like this definitely is a season of giving back. Like there are a lot of people that are really impacted on all levels, students, people who are working and have kids. And I feel like this season, for those people who can, to give back is there's going to be a lot of opportunities. So for me, how I've been dealing with it is I just try to stay present and to control what I can control and to help where I can help. And where there are opportunities to give back, I try to step up where I know that I can.
Yeah, and Crystal, I think you touched on something too. Like for me, like May, June, when a lot of the, killings were happening and things of that nature, it was heavy. It was like a very heavy time, and to log into work every day and knowing like another African-American male is killed or a woman is killed, it just became a lot to even be present at work. And I know within Microsoft, they allowed us to have a lot of conversations, right, on just sharing, this is my story. And there were other African Americans at Microsoft who shared their experiences. So I think that helped a lot of us just kind of release everything that we had been feeling, right, and to allow us to mentally and emotionally then be present, because it's like, yeah, I understand how you're feeling. How are you coping with this, right? Another thing I do too is, so like social media became a lot during that time too. So I limited the time on on Instagram and Facebook, you have locks that you can put time limits on. So I did that. But for me, it was mostly just having conversations, right? And understanding or just releasing how I'm feeling or how my friends are feeling and just being a sounding board to those people. So that's how I just remained present. And for me, it was just talking.
Yeah, and I'll say that like at least for me and my team, like what we do is so personal to kids. And so like to have these things go on in the world, I think there was like a whole week, like I think it was like the first week of June, where like just everybody's energy in the entire office was just like in tears, like everybody. And I feel like, obviously we're in a work situation, but like our company is such a family. So to be able to have such difficult conversations with people, I think kind of like helped take, when you're able to talk about how you're feeling, it makes you able to like cope better in the situation. And so I've been kind of dealing with all that in terms of like seeing people get killed, is that I come to work every single day making the next generation of kids. And for me, that is kind of like, I don't take that lightly. I take it as like a duty. Like that is, I think like a passion. I'm obsessed with it. Like I want to make sure that my nieces have a better chance than I did, even if I have good chances. Like I want to make sure the next kid is able to see themselves and coming to work every single day and feeling like your input matters, like who you are matters, and that you're able to be your full black self, and like you're able to show like who you really are, and have that be received, and have you not be afraid to like express how you feel, I think means the world for me. Like, I love my bosses, and for them to kind of say to us, if you want to talk about this, we're here to listen, and you can say whatever you need to say. I feel like, I know that not everyone gets that. I think that's a very rare relationship. It's a family dynamic. But I will say, is being able to be yourself in an environment and have your colleagues, it's not, in these days, it's not just about if you get your work done. It's about, how are you? How are you doing? Are you taking care of yourself? Do you need a sick day? Do you need to log off for the day? And I feel like that being able to take care of yourself helps you be able to take care of your work. And it goes back and forth.
Thanks, Crystal. And I would like to, there is a question here, Dolly, if people will stay with us for a little bit, that I am very curious about. Because this is just to lift the conversation a little bit, but job cover letters, are they still around? Do people still do a cover letter for their resume? Jasmine, what do you feel about, like, if a person's applying for a job, do you recommend that they still do cover letters?
I don't think it hurts. I know, so I can only speak from my experience. So because the way I entered Microsoft through the conference and all that stuff, I didn't personally have to write a cover letter. I have friends who are looking for jobs, they write cover letters. So I think it depends too on your network, right? Because in some cases, let's just say hypothetically, I have a friend who's interested at Microsoft and interested in a position. I might be able to allow my friend and the hiring manager of said position have an informational, or just introduce them, right? And they can, share their resume or just explain what they've done. And that might get them a shoe in the door, right, into Microsoft. So for me, I personally haven't written a cover letter in a while. I know people who do it. I don't think it hurts at the end of the day. But. Okay.
I feel like they definitely, I feel like if something says to write a cover letter, like you should at least take the initiative to write something. I applied for this job, and it was like through Syracuse University, and I wrote like just a really nice, like really short cover letter because it was an email, and he responded back to me. And when I went in for the email, he met me and he said to me, I just want you to know that what you write matters and people are reading what you write. And he said, I picked you for this internship because of what you write, because of what you wrote to me. And he's like, you would be surprised what basically trash people write to like in cover letters and emails, like, hey, got a job, or hey, can I apply for this, or hey, like, and so I feel like what you write does matter. And I think it's an opportunity that at least if your resume is somewhere like on a desk and there's also another person's resume, I feel like you showing that you wrote that cover letter and just giving a glimpse of yourself, like it's something.
Okay. Well, we do have someone who did say that they applied for a job or internship, and the fact that they had a cover letter, it made a difference. So I think we got our question answered right there. All right, Dolly, we'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, the hour went by very, very quickly, and I learned a lot, not only about somebody who I've known for a long time, but I've learned so much more from Jasmine and Crystal. And for me, I feel like I've just listened to two future leaders in the industry.
Absolutely.
I am so proud to know you guys, and staying connected with you means a lot to me, just personally, and watching your growth and watching you become the women that you are is phenomenal. So good luck and keep going. Zenita, thank you so much for
having me.
For driving this great conversation, and with your you're very, you're so laid back. I just wish you would get some energy because.
Well, I was glad to be here with everyone. I hope that you got something out of it. And, you're always welcome to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. Make sure you get your LinkedIn accounts updated and just reach out. And if there's anything I can do to help you or connect you to someone that's in a field that you're interested in, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'll get you connected.
And she means that, you guys. And I'm sure Jasmine and Crystal probably, if you want to continue asking questions and reach out, I bet LinkedIn is probably a good way to do that. Mm-hmm. So thank you. Everybody stay safe, wear the mask, take care of yourselves, at each other. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the next session and with our 2020 One Day Immersion Conference happening November 13th. More information coming about that.